Hello everyone, so we're just going to do a really short lecture today on some different biochemical processes. So we're going to look at this before we get into our metabolism of like glycolysis, citric acid cycle, and electron transfer chain. So essentially we were going to be, when we talk about the different enzymes and different stuff and all the different reactions throughout these pathways, we'll see a bunch of these different types of reaction types or biochemical processes. And essentially this is just that preemptive or preliminary knowledge that will just help us get through. So again, some of the stuff we mentioned before, but we'll just go into a little more detail. So first, we're going to look at phosphorylation and dephosphorylation. So phosphorylation is the addition of a phosphate group, usually presented as P or PI, which is inorganic phosphate. Again, one of the easiest examples is ADP to ATP. This is being phosphorylated, the addition, so we're going from diphosphate to triphosphate. So that's just an easy example. And again, these are achieved by kinases. So again, when you see kinase, this involves phosphorylation. So you'll see in glycolysis, we'll see something called hexokinase, for example, or glucokinase. So again, now we know that these kinases are here, and that's going to be involving our phosphates. So quite obvious, dephosphorylation is the removal of a phosphate group. This is included by phosphatases. So the key things here to get this nomenclature, where you can see kinase and you know it's going to be phosphorylation, and that this involves the addition of a phosphate molecule, and then that phosphatases are involved in the removal of a phosphate group through dephosphorylation. So essentially, this is the reaction. So A is our phosphorylation, where we have the addition of our phosphate. So here's kind of that what it looks like. Then here, B, we have the removal. So next is hydrogenation and dehydrogenation. So we mentioned how dehydrogenation and hydrogenation are also known as reduction and oxidation. So again, we saw as reduction would be the gaining of electrons, and this would be the loss of electrons. So i.e. becomes reduced, i.e. it's more negative, and this becomes more positive. So again, this relates to their charge. So hydrogenation is the addition of a hydrogen to a molecule, breaking the carbon-to-carbon bond. So it involves the reduction, which refers specifically to the addition of electrons, and these can be seen as hydrogen atoms, often referred as hydrogen, like that. Again, hydrogenation is achieved by hydrogenases, also known as reductases. So certain enzymes you'll see as hydrogenase or reductase, but you should know that either or means it is being hydrogenated. So dehydrogenation, also known as oxidation, is the removal of hydrogen forming the carbon-to-carbon bond. Here we can see the carbon-to-carbon bond, and now here we don't have that. Essentially, it's that carbon double bond, essentially. So we have the oxidation, refers specifically to the removal of electrons, and again, containing hydrogen atoms, and this is achieved by dehydrogenase or oxidase enzymes. So again, we have the reaction with A being hydrogenation and B being dehydrogenation. Oops, sorry. Again, we can also note this charges. So hydration and dehydration. So by the title, we can involve that this is closely related to being involved with H2O. So hydration. So think about hydration of yourself when you drink something. It is the addition of water to a molecule without cleavage of the molecule. This is achieved by hydratase enzymes. While dehydration is the removal. So again, think about drinking dehydrated low water from a molecule without joining the two molecules. Is achieved by dehydratase. So key here is that without joining and without cleavage, because we'll see that another type does involve these. So here we can see we have hydration, we have the water being added. Here's our H2O being added to the molecule, whereas our dehydration or dehydratase, water is being removed, and now we have water separate as a product. So next is hydrolysis and condensation. So in these, we can see it's with cleavage and joining. So in comparison to hydration, dehydration. So keep that in mind. So hydrolysis and condensation. So hydrolysis is the addition of water to a molecule with cleavage. That's the most important part of the molecule. So one molecule essentially becoming two, cleavage. And this is achieved by hydrolase enzymes. While condensation is the removal of water from two molecules joining the molecules. So here we have hydrolysis, where we have adding the water and splitting the molecule. So this molecule is now split, but we're adding water to it. Where in condensation, we're removing the water. You can think of a condensation just like in rain or in a puddle where the water is leaving, it's being evaporated. So it's kind of leaving the substrate. And now we can see we have the one molecule and the removal of water, joining the molecules. So again, essentially, hydrolysis is cleavage, addition of water with cleavage, and condensation, removal of water with joining. So just a little recap, dissociation is another way of saying this is when we're splitting of larger molecules into smaller molecules. So here we can see the dissociation of the H, forming this molecule here. So just a recap. Whoops. So again, identify the type of reaction occurring, and 2, the functional groups present in the reactant and product. So here we can see, once we have H2O and the splitting of, now we go from 2 to 1, we obviously know that's a condensation reaction. So again, that's the removal of water joining molecules, where the addition of water, which we can see here, so here's our H into OH, so our H2O, we have hydrolysis. So on this one, oxidation or reduction, so we have dehydrogenation and hydrogenation. So with oxidation, which is our dehydrogenation, you can see here, our H is not there. With the reduction, with the addition of those hydrogen ions, so remember the H usually carries that electron. We can see here the addition of that H. So again, that's the end of our really short lecture on these, and then we'll start to move into our cellular respiration. Thanks.